guys, so as you can tell by the title of the video, we're going to be doing something that I've been wanting to do for a good while now, especially since I've been at my school. Its name is the Fab School. That kind of confuses people sometimes. But recently we started doing classes on suspension geometry and how to change like your roll center, height, and inclination angle, and Ackerman, and all the good stuff like that, and like what does what. And I knew a lot about how like this stuff works in a sense and like what it does, but this class gave me like way more detail on exactly how to measure stuff and how to move stuff. And yeah, so I'm gonna kind of like share that with you guys. But yeah, so we're gonna be building an angle kit. Some of it that I already pretty much built already because I extend my LCAs, but I'm gonna show you guys what I did to the knuckle to compensate for the extra Ackerman that my old kit actually had. So first of all, we're gonna go ahead and draw a little picture so I can explain to you guys how to change your Ackerman or how certain things affect it to kind of clarify what it does. Okay, so we got our little drawing of a car here. So rear axle, front axle, just kind of like imagine these are the lower control arms. So to measure this or to basically change it, you have to imagine a line between, let's say this is gonna be your lower control arm mount to the knuckle, and then your steering arm mount that mounts to the tie rod. So I'm gonna draw that on both sides. And then the way to kind of like measure it is that you just basically draw a line straight through, and where they cross is the point of measurement. So the farther down you go in this direction, it's gonna be reduced Ackerman. And right in the center of the rear axle or the diff is going to be true Ackerman, where I kind of have it set right now. And so reduced Ackerman, when the wheels are turning, they're going to be almost parallel. And usually this is pretty beneficial for drifting. Sometimes they even do have it be parallel. I didn't really draw that, but yeah, so since your wheels are kind of always pointing the same way, you're not really like turning around a corner like you do with grip driving or something. Reduced or parallel steering is a lot better for drifting. True Ackerman would be the exact amount that it needs on each side while going around a corner. So essentially they would be staying on the same path without scrubbing or anything like that. And then reverse Ackerman, the outside wheel is going to turn more than the inside wheel. So that kind of makes sense. But yeah, so reverse Ackerman is only really used in F1. It keeps their tires a lot colder when they're going around a corner, and with all the downforce, it really helps the outside tire grip the track. So that's really the only place that I've seen it. I do have a friend who runs this on his track car, and he really likes it because it anchors the inside wheel and kind of plants the front end into the corner. But I'm sure he doesn't run it as extreme as they do in F1. No one does true Ackerman, and drifting is usually reduced Ackerman. So for parallel, let me kind of draw it again really quick because I kind of forgot that. It's basically just going to be the 2 points are going to go straight and never connect, and that would be parallel Ackerman or zero. So now that you guys had your quick lesson, let me kind of show you how I re-drilled the knuckle to compensate for that. So I just kind of have it mocked up right now. Cause I got to take it back off and finish grinding it and make it nice because it looks kind of dumb right now. But so I basically positioned the hole towards the outside of the steering arm and a certain amount back, which is going to be farther than what I had now. So it should be a little bit more angle. I have the specs for it. I'm not the one that came up with it. I have a friend who actually figured this out or played with it to get, I would say this is probably the limit that you can go with these because it maxes out the little ball joint in the LCA pretty hard from the way it's like torquing on it. So yeah, I don't think you could get much more angle than this with stock components. But yeah, so basically I just re-drilled the knuckle to compensate for the Ackerman, and then you guys know because I think I've shown this before, but I extended my LCAs 1.5 inches. So let me show you what else this kind of affects in your suspension, because moving all these pickup points is going to change the way your car handles. But there's also ways to compensate for it, so I can also show you how to adjust. All right, so here's my shitty drawing of a front suspension. So when you start moving all these things around, like the LCA mount and the coilover top hat, that camber adjustment, that actually messes with your roll center a lot. So You don't really want to actually adjust camber off that if you can, otherwise it's going to mess with all your geometry. So the way you know how that's going to change everything is, to start, you take your pillow ball mount, or the top of the coilover, and you draw a straight line all the way through the LCA, or where the LCA mounts to the knuckle. For some reason online it tells you to go in line with the coilover, but that's wrong. It says that in some book somewhere, but any engineer at some manufacturer like Subaru or Kia or whatever, they do it like this. And my teachers talked to Mike Kojima, and he said that this is the right way, so do it like this if you do want to try and figure this out. So you have that line, and then you go 90 degrees off of it from the top all the way down. And then you take these 2 points from your LCA, and then you draw a line straight through, and then that's going to be your instant center. So once you have your instant center, oh, almost grabbed a Sharpie. You go from the center line of your contact patch and draw a line straight from that to the instant center, and then wherever it connects across the center line of the vehicle, that is your roll center height. So the optimal roll center height is exactly centered on your vehicle's center of gravity. Now that changes all the time with like a roll cage, different seats, or whatever. It's always going to change, so you're probably not going to get it perfect, but that would be like the optimal height for it to be at, just matching the vehicle center of gravity. In theory, there'd be no body roll if that happened, but usually it's never going to happen like that unless it's in a perfect world. A lot of this stuff is important, and messing with your camber plate, trying to be a stance god, is going to mess with your whole suspension tree. So back to the actual car. The way I kind of compensated for this, obviously because it's going to try and put my roll center into the ground from it being so tilted at an axis like this, I was able to move the top hat and spin it so it kind of stays centered but then comes out a little bit, almost like if you were dialing out camber on it, if that's what you're using it for, and add some caster. I haven't done this before, but I've had the idea for a while. I was just too lazy, but yeah, if you watch videos of me, the car doesn't have very good self-steer, and you see me feeding the wheel constantly, so probably should have done this a while ago, but it's gonna be fixed now, and this thing should be driving a lot better, and I'm pretty curious how it's gonna turn out. Now, before I go on, if you guys are confused, please ask a question in the comments. I'm not the best teacher. I probably stuttered a bunch talking about that, and I'm gonna be annoyed when I go and edit it. So yeah, I'm not very good at trying to think about what I know and say it at the same time. All right, so I'm gonna get back to working on the knuckle. I have the other one coming in the mail. I just have this one laying around, so I started on it. I'm gonna try and dial it in a little more and see if we can make this perfect for it being pretty much all stock components except for the tie rod, or the inner tie rod. I will put a parts list up too, so you guys can see that this is like literally cost nothing to do, really. The most expensive part is the tie rod, and those are like, I think they're like $8 each off Rock Auto. They're the EV455 tie rods for like a Crown Vic or something, so they're a little bit longer, but yeah. As long as you got a friend who can weld, or you can weld yourself, this is gonna be dirt cheap for you to do, and it should perform pretty good. All right, back to work. So I'm gonna start the time lapse, and we're gonna get to drilling and grinding. Okay, so there it is, all finished up, painted and clear coated. So it's just drying, just painted the same color as my engine bay and roll cage and stuff. So now I'm just gonna wait for the other one to come in the mail, and we will do it step by step, and I'll show you all the measurements and exactly what tools to use so you guys can do it at home. So we have our second knuckle here. First thing we're gonna do is start by shaving down the top so we can actually get a clean spot to drill into and a clean spot to mark. So I ended up already drilling and cutting the knuckle because I got bored. So I'm just gonna show you guys on the whiteboard, but it's pretty straightforward. So I'll just draw it out really quick. So this is the face of the knuckle where the brake rotor and stuff is, and this is the steering arm. You're basically gonna wanna go down 6 centimeters or 2.362 inches, and then over a centimeter and a half, and then 591 thousandths. And I'll kind of show you how to mark that. So you're gonna wanna set your caliper to whatever measurement it is, and then you can kind of hook the edge of the steering arm and then scribe, And this is after you grind it flat and everything and it's smooth, you'll be able to see the scribe mark a lot better. You can even put a little bit of like Sharpie down so you'll scratch into it. And then you do the same thing and then scribe this way, and then you'll have your little crosshair. And then once you have the crosshair, you just take like an automatic center punch and then punch it. And then you're gonna be drilling 1/4 inch pilot, and then the final size is a 1/2 inch. And then once you're done, your outer tie rods are actually tapered, so you need a tapered reamer. So you're basically just gonna go through the bottom and ream up it, and then basically test fit your LCA or your outer tie rod until it fits right. And this is I think like a 7-degree 1/2 inch to 3/4 automotive taper on Amazon. They're like $45. So yeah, so once you do all this, then you're gonna have your like old hole and all this excess steering arm that you don't need. So you can take like a circle template or just freehand it and draw like a nice little arc, and then trim this off, and then you are left with something that looks just like this. So I already have one side together, and I'm gonna kind of show you some problems I ran into and how I fixed it, and something else that I'm gonna end up making that's gonna make this kit a lot better. To start, I was having problems with the outer tie rod touching the LCA over here, and I ended up having to take the rack spacers out, so there's no rack spacers right now. But so as the wheel turns, it gains camber and it gives you like a really bad contact patch. So the reason for this is because the inclination angle is really bad, or the way the coilover leans over. And the way I'm gonna fix this is make do top hat. So I actually don't have a top hat in there right now. That's the old one. And I drafted this out and designed it to basically have more adjustment. So it sits in just like this. And I can kind of show you how it's gonna look when the coilover is sitting in it and you just kind of push it over. And if you watch, there's like almost no camber, positive camber, which is perfect. It should, I mean, like you might have a little bit because you don't want it to be all the way at full lock, since the car naturally kind of sits where it's flat on the ground. So it's pretty much perfect. So I'm gonna put the rest of the kit back together. I did get those new outer tie rods. They're P2M ones, and they have a little bit of roll center, or not roll center, but bump steer adjustment. So I can put those in the description too if you guys want to get them. They're probably like the cheapest ones I could find, but they seem pretty good. I'm gonna put the rest of it together, align it, and then make those top hats and put them in, and then we'll take a look at it and we'll measure the final gain and angle, and then measure the Ackerman, and we'll go out and do a test drive. So here's kind of the process of how it all went. I took the original one, traced it, and then reclocked it how I wanted, and then lengthened the holes. Then I had a friend from another class at my school who knew how to design stuff, draw it up online, or not online, but on Solid Edge, and 3D printed a template so I could test fit it. And then we went and laser cut these and then buffed them up and made them all nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the rest of the car back together now, and then we'll take a look at how everything is. All right, so the car is all aligned and we have everything together. Matt's here, which is awesome because his car still has the old kit that I used to have on the car, so we have a perfect comparison. So let's take a look at it. It definitely has a lot more angle. I would say about 6 to 7 degrees more. I measured it, and the lead wheel has 56 degrees and the trailing wheel is 46. So it's 10 degrees of Ackerman, which isn't too bad. It's definitely better than before, but let's take a look at it. Crank her over. It's pretty good. No, keep going. Yeah, so there's a good amount now. It doesn't rub. It's very close to rubbing on almost everything, as you can see. But yeah, so we're gonna jack Matt's car up and then we'll look at his. But first we're gonna do his mirror plates really quick because he got some Ganadors. So yeah, so we can do a little side-by-side comparison. One more thing, I think I was kind of on the wrong direction about getting the contact patch super nice, because caster and that positive camber is what gives it the self-steer, because that positive camber lifts up the car and the weight of the car wants to push it down and turn the wheels back straight. So I changed the way my top hats are a little bit, so we'll have a lot of self-steer. I've heard that that's much better than having contact patch, and from like pictures I've seen of like professional drift cars sliding around and stuff, it looks like they have tons of it. So I'll kind of show you where I set mine. The caster, pretty far back. I did dial it forward just a little bit. because the steering was really heavy. I did a quick little test drive, but nothing crazy yet. But we're about to go on one, and we'll see how she really feels. All right, so here's the drift knuckles kit. I measured it on the ground. He had like 3 more degrees of Ackerman than me, and then what did I say, 52 degrees of angle. So we gained 4 degrees of angle.
Wow.
But, man. But I'm also rubbing on my tie rods because I added more caster. When I dial the caster back, it goes up to like 59 to 60 degrees. So I'm just kind of keeping it in more of the functional angle range. And if I made my tie rods a little different or made custom ones where it doesn't touch right there, it could definitely go a lot farther. So yeah, and he has rack spacers and I don't, so I still have that like range of movement that I can add to it. It's test drive time.
All right, we're gonna do some figure eights and some little donuts and stuff and feel it out. And I think we're gonna go do our standard on-ramp test.
Driving earlier was just the warm-up. The party's about to start now, boys.
Oh yeah!
So full day of testing. This kit feels really good grip driving, surprisingly. I think it's mostly because of the caster settings, but it just feels like really stable. So we had some fun up in the mountains, but yeah, it makes good angle and it drives really well. So it's cheap and easy. So all you guys can do it too. Well, that's it for this video. So we'll catch you guys next time.